Hello, I'm Dr. Emily Haythornthwaite and I'm a clinical psychologist. Today I want to talk to you about some of the things that might stop people from seeking help when they've experienced a traumatic experience. So seeking help can be a critical step in your recovery, but many people face significant barriers that can prevent them from reaching out for support. So these can include shame and guilt. So when we've experienced trauma, we can often develop views of ourselves as being defective or unworthy, or even blaming ourselves for those experiences. So our mind tries to make sense of what has happened, and it can be easier or sometimes even safer to believe that there is something wrong with you rather than believe that the person who has abused you, often a loved one or a caregiver, has hurt you. So when we feel a sense of shame, we can be drawn to also isolate, withdraw, or even hide, and that can stop us from engaging constructively. Stigma. So this can be cultural, societal, or even self-stigma. So in some cultures, there is a silence around particular types of trauma, in particular sexual violence. But for others, there may be a sense of needing to just tough it out and not wanting to be seen as weak for seeking support. Another barrier is that of fear of not being believed or having a sense of mistrust. So if someone's trauma involves betrayal, such as abuse by a loved one or someone in a position of trust, shame can make you feel hesitant to trust others in general. But you may also fear that seeking help will only result in more hurt, disappointment, or betrayal. Another barrier could be not having our basic needs met. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a psychological theory that organizes our human needs into 5-tier pyramid. So we have our basic survival needs at the bottom and higher psychological self-fulfillment at the top. So the theory suggests that people must have their fundamental basic needs met before we can focus on higher level needs. So if someone does not have their basic physiological or safety needs met, or are still in a dangerous relationship or environment, it could be really unsafe for them and impractical to engage in psychological therapy. So addressing those needs in a stepped, holistic way can help survivors overcome barriers to seeking help and begin their healing journey. Remember, you can't heal in the situation that made you sick. For some survivors, they may not recognize that they have experienced trauma. They may deny or minimize their difficulties, whereas for others, they may simply be fearful or avoidant of change. So that leads us on to our next potential barrier, readiness to change. This refers to an individual's willingness and motivation to confront and address the emotional, psychological, and behavioural patterns as a result of their trauma. For some people, they can feel really ambivalent or lack insight, and for others, they may simply not feel ready to make those changes. And for others, they may simply fear that emotional overwhelm and just not feel ready to confront their experiences. There are practical and access barriers that people can experience too. So that can be long waiting lists, especially for specialist psychological therapy. There is inconsistent therapy availability, almost like a postcode lottery. Sometimes we have time constraints, such as having caregiving responsibilities. But there are also cultural and language barriers, as well as the costs of seeking therapeutic support privately. So in summary, there are many potential barriers that may hinder someone from accessing support. In society, we need to continue to improve access to psychological support and break down the stigma of trauma and mental health. And by doing that, we begin to create spaces where people can begin to feel safe and start their healing journeys. You can find more information about me on my Instagram, Dr. Emily the Psychologist, or on my website, dremilythepsychologist.com. I have been working with MindFriend today. I'm really excited for you to see, so stay tuned. Is that okay?
Perfect. Wonderful.